There is a feeling many women know, that knot in the stomach that won't go away, that unease that appears for no apparent reason. Everything seems fine on the surface, but inside, something is broken. There's no evidence, no suspicious messages or calls, but there is silence, a void, a gut feeling that no matter how hard you try to ignore it, screams at you in moments of solitude. Infidelity rarely begins with a kiss. It starts much earlier. It starts when he stops looking at you the same way, when his good morning feels like a habit rather than a gesture of affection, when the laughter that once came so easily now feels rehearsed, stripped of warmth, stripped of soul. It's not the physical act that wounds you first, but the quiet erosion of presence, the withdrawal of curiosity, the death of the little rituals that once made you feel seen. This is the betrayal women sense long before they see proof, because infidelity is not just about bodies, it is about absence. A man may still sit across from you at the dinner table, but his heart has already left. He may still say, "I love you," but his words are recycled, hollow, drained of the fire that once lit them. He may still reach for your hand, but instead of holding you, he is merely performing a memory of closeness. And the cruelest part? He convinces you that you're imagining it, that the discomfort in your chest is just your own insecurity, when in reality, it is your soul waking you up. Carl Jung once wrote that people will do almost anything to avoid confronting the truth of their inner emptiness, and many men, unable to face that void, reach for distractions, another woman, another conversation, another escape. What they seek is not love, but anesthesia, a temporary numbness for the dissatisfaction they refuse to confront. And yet, you as a woman, you feel it. You notice the subtle shifts. He no longer asks how your day was. His responses shorten, his eyes wander, his concern for your well-being fades into silence. This is not paranoia, this is perception. Your intuition is not a weakness, it is your compass. But when you question him, he twists it against you. He grows defensive. He says you're exaggerating, paranoid, too much. That's when manipulation begins. That's when the gaslight flickers and you start doubting the very truth your body already knows. And still, you fight for love while he no longer even fights for honesty. Emotional infidelity is a ghostly betrayal. He remains physically present, but his soul has slipped into the shadows. He hides it behind excuses, work, stress, exhaustion, distractions. But exhaustion does not explain the absence of tenderness. Stress does not explain why his words no longer carry care. What you're sensing is not fatigue, it's disconnection. It's the silence of a man whose heart is wandering elsewhere while his body stays. It feels like living with a stranger who still bears the face you love. It feels like looking into his eyes and realizing you no longer exist in them. Like inhabiting a house where the lights still work, but the warmth of home has vanished. Female intuition does not need photographs, messages, or confessions, because the soul knows when love has been withdrawn. You feel it in the energy between you. You feel it in the way silence stretches longer than it used to. You feel it in the absence of tenderness, in the way intimacy transforms into duty, in the way laughter fades into polite conversation. And then comes the most dangerous stage, not when betrayal is visible, but when it is invisible, when you are still clinging to memories of what once was while he has already let go of the present. You convince yourself to stay because there's no proof. You wonder if maybe it's your fault, if you've done something wrong, if you're the one losing your grip. But you are not failing. What's failing is the connection that once held you both together. This is the loneliest part of love, when you are fighting to preserve something he abandoned long ago. When you still gamble your heart on love, while he no longer even bets on truth. And yet, the cruelest lie isn't his absence, it's his denial of it. It's when he tells you that you're the problem, when your intuition is dismissed instead of honored. But you are not broken for noticing. You are not crazy for sensing. You are not weak for demanding presence. You are awake. And waking up always hurts, because to see the truth is to lose the illusion you once clung to. But remember this, the truth, however heavy, is always kinder than self-deception. To recognize the silence, to admit the absence, is the first step back to yourself. Because no one deserves to be loved halfway. No one deserves to beg for attention, to plead for affection, to bargain for respect. Love is not meant to make you doubt yourself. And if something in your relationship no longer vibrates with love, it is because love has already left. Infidelity doesn't start in someone else's arms. It begins in the small, unspoken ways he disconnects from you while pretending everything is fine. It begins in the moment he stops choosing you every day. It begins in the soul, long before the body follows, and your intuition knows it, even if he denies it, even if the world tells you to ignore it. Your inner voice is not betraying you, it is saving you. Many believe that betrayal happens suddenly, as if it's just a moment of weakness, a reckless decision made in the heat of opportunity. But the truth is far more insidious. Infidelity is not an accident, it is a slow, quiet unraveling. It is a decision made again and again in silence, long before lips ever meet. It begins when he chooses indifference over intimacy, when he chooses absence over presence, when he decides not to face his own dissatisfaction but instead to project it outward, making you the scapegoat for what he refuses to confront inside himself. Carl Jung spoke of the shadow, the parts of ourselves we deny, repress, or bury because we cannot bear to face them. And this is where betrayal is born. A man who refuses to acknowledge his shadow becomes a prisoner of it. He grows restless, resentful, dissatisfied, but instead of courageously looking inward, he seeks relief elsewhere. He believes another woman will quiet the storm inside him, when in truth, no one else can fill the void of a man who has not met himself. What he is missing is not you. It is not even love. What he is missing is himself. And yet, the pain falls on you. You notice how he no longer shares his dreams or his fears, how he speaks to you with words but not with soul. His "I love yous" feel borrowed, like lines repeated out of habit. He listens to you with half an ear, nodding at the right times while his eyes remain fixed on a screen. You become an echo in his life rather than a presence, and you know it, you feel it. It's not that he's gone, but that he's staying without truly being there. And that absence, though invisible, cuts deeper than any visible betrayal. This is the cruelty of emotional infidelity. You can't point to a crime scene, you can't hold up evidence, and yet every cell of your body feels the abandonment. He doesn't have to leave for you to feel left behind. He doesn't have to cheat physically for you to feel cheated. Because the greatest betrayal is not always another woman, it is the hollowing out of the love you once shared. And then, inevitably, the body follows the soul. Physical intimacy shifts. Sometimes it disappears altogether, his touch grows mechanical, absent of tenderness, stripped of desire. Other times it becomes strangely intense, almost theatrical, as if he's trying to mask his inner absence with forced passion. But you feel the difference. You know when sex has become an act rather than a connection. You know when you're being touched without being truly felt. There is nothing lonelier than lying next to someone who is no longer really there. And then come the secrets, the small, unnecessary walls, a password changed, a phone suddenly guarded like a treasure chest, a device that once rested face up now always turned face down. If you ask, he overreacts. Why do you care? You're too jealous. You're imagining things. But this defensiveness itself is a confession. A man with nothing to hide has no reason to guard so fiercely. A man at peace with his choices does not turn your questions into accusations. But this is the pattern of betrayal. When the truth grows too heavy, he twists the mirror and makes you doubt yourself. It's called gaslighting, the slow erosion of your trust in your own perception. You say, "I feel like you're distant," and he answers with sarcasm, "Here you go again with your drama." You say, "It hurts the way you act around her," and he replies, "So, I can't even talk to anyone now?" You say, "I feel lonely," and he throws back, "You're always complaining." And so, every time you express your truth, he reframes it as an attack, until you stop speaking, until you swallow your feelings, until you begin to believe maybe you are the problem. But you are not the problem. Your intuition is not an error to be corrected. It is your soul's warning system. And if it is sounding the alarm, you must listen. Because what is at stake is not just love, it is your sense of self. Emotional manipulation doesn't simply take away your trust in him, it steals your trust in yourself. And when you no longer believe your own perception, you are trapped in his shadow, living by his lies. This is why many women stay far longer than they should, not because they don't feel the truth, but because they have been trained to doubt it. Because they keep hoping that the version of him who once laughed with them, held them, saw them, will return. But that version is gone. Not because of you, but because he already chose to leave in the only way that matters. He stopped choosing you. And here lies the harsh truth. You cannot resurrect someone's commitment once they've buried it. You cannot carry both sides of the relationship on your back forever. A love that is real cannot survive on one person's effort. And the longer you fight for what he has abandoned, the more you abandon yourself. That is the hidden cost of infidelity. Not only do you lose his presence, but you risk losing your own in the process. Yet within this pain is a seed of awakening, because there comes a moment when you realize that the silence you've been fighting against is no longer his, it is yours. That you have been silencing yourself, dismissing your own knowing, betraying your own intuition just to keep a fragile version of love alive. And that realization, as painful as it is sacred, because it marks the beginning of your rebirth. The truth is, betrayal is not the end of you, it is the unveiling of you. It is the universe's brutal way of saying, stop waiting to be chosen and choose yourself. Stop giving your energy to someone who does not value it. Stop mistaking persistence for love and start recognizing that sometimes letting go is the most powerful form of self-respect. Because no one deserves to beg for affection. No one deserves to shrink themselves to fit into someone else's emptiness. And no one, least of all you, was born to live in half-love. The hardest part of betrayal is not the act itself, but the denial that surrounds it. Because if he looked you in the eye and confessed, the wound would at least be honest. But instead, he often hides behind a mask of normalcy, pretending that everything is fine while his soul has already stepped outside the relationship. He greets you with the same routines, the same gestures, but the essence is gone. His smile is faded, his gaze unfocused, his touch mechanical. He is present only in body, while his spirit drifts elsewhere, and you feel it every single day. At first you tell yourself it's stress, exhaustion, a phase that will pass. You search for logical explanations, because the truth feels unbearable. But deep down, you know, the mind invents excuses, but the soul does not lie. His absence is etched into every silence, every cold reply, every moment when he's with you but not really with you. And the more you try to ignore it, the louder the silence grows. This is where many women get trapped in self-blame. You wonder, did I change? Did I fail him? Am I not enough? But listen carefully. You are not the cause of his infidelity. You are not the reason he chose escape over honesty. Even if you were imperfect, even if you made mistakes, nothing justifies betrayal. A man who is emotionally mature will speak, will confront, will take responsibility. Only a man ruled by fear will seek refuge in someone else, instead of facing what is broken. His choice to betray is not a reflection of your worth, it is a reflection of his inability to face himself. And that's why betrayal always begins in the soul. Because fidelity is not only about bodies, fidelity is about presence, attention, intention. It's about choosing the same person every day, even when it's hard. It's about honoring the bond, not just in public, but in the private spaces of the heart. And when he stops doing that, when he stops showing up emotionally, the betrayal has already begun. Even if there is no other woman yet, even if he still sleeps beside you. The first signs are subtle. His replies grow colder, filled with excuses. I'm tired. I have too much on my mind. I'm not in the mood. At first, you accept them, because they sound reasonable. But what you're really hearing is absence. His energy no longer vibrates with you. His soul is elsewhere. Slowly, he withdraws. He no longer shares his thoughts, no longer asks about yours. Conversations that once ran deep now skim the surface. You become a housemate rather than a partner, and when you try to get close, you hit an invisible wall. The house looks the same, but its soul has vanished. And then, technology becomes the shield. The phone that once lay open on the table now lives in his pocket, face down. He changes passwords, guards his devices as if they hold state secrets. And when you ask an innocent question, "Who just texted you?" he erupts with exaggerated defensiveness. "Why do you care? Why are you checking on me? You're so jealous." But his anger is not about your question. His anger is the fear of being exposed. Because when there is nothing to hide, there is no reason to be hostile. Defensiveness is the mask of guilt. And here is where the most dangerous form of betrayal emerges: emotional manipulation. He makes you feel wrong for simply noticing. He twists your intuition into insecurity. He turns your clarity into doubt. You begin to question yourself. Am I imagining this? Am I paranoid? Am I the one ruining everything? This is not love. This is abuse. Because real love doesn't silence your truth, it embraces it. Real love doesn't mock your feelings, it honors them. But manipulation works slowly. He paints you as jealous, dramatic, unreasonable, until your voice grows quieter. And while you doubt yourself, he deepens his betrayal. The signs are everywhere if you dare to see them. Unnecessary arguments become constant, as if he's looking for reasons to distance himself. Every small mistake becomes a battle. Every forgotten detail becomes a weapon. Why? Because conflict gives him an excuse. If he convinces himself that you're the problem, then he can justify seeking something better. This is called projection. He blames you for the very things he is doing. He paints himself as the victim, so he won't have to face his own cowardice. And while you exhaust yourself trying to fix the relationship, he builds a narrative where you are the villain and he is the misunderstood hero. But the cruelest betrayal is not the arguments, not even the secrets, it's the erasure. Slowly, you vanish from his future. Where he once spoke of we, now it's only me. Where there were once shared dreams, now there is silence. He no longer mentions you when he talks about what's ahead. He plans trips alone, makes decisions without you, builds a vision that no longer has your name written on it, and you feel it. The shared path dissolves beneath your feet. The life you imagined together becomes a story he's no longer telling. And yet, the most painful manipulation is the one that makes you doubt your own heart. He says, "You're imagining things. You always think the worst. You're impossible to talk to. You're overreacting." These words are weapons. They are designed to make you silence yourself, to make you shrink, to make you surrender your voice. This is gaslighting, the distortion of your perception, until you no longer trust yourself. And when you lose trust in yourself, you will tolerate almost anything, even the slow death of love. But let me tell you something your soul already knows. You are not crazy. You are not insecure. You are not asking for too much. You are asking for what every human being deserves: presence, respect, honesty. Love that makes you feel safe instead of confused. And if your relationship gives you more doubt than peace, more anxiety than trust, more fear than joy, then it is not love. It is dependency disguised as devotion. The greatest betrayal is not that he left. The greatest betrayal is that you abandoned yourself trying to hold on to him. But this realization, as devastating as it feels, is also liberation. Because once you see clearly, you can no longer unsee. Once you acknowledge the absence, you can stop waiting for it to return. And once you choose to trust yourself again, you reclaim the one thing he could never truly take from you: your dignity. There comes a moment in almost every broken relationship when the lines between reality and illusion blur. You wake up and ask yourself, am I seeing things clearly, or am I just imagining them? Deep inside, something screams that the love has changed, that the connection is slipping away, but outside, everything is disguised as routine. He still comes home, still says, "I love you," still shares a bed with you, and yet, you feel it in the pit of your stomach, in the heaviness of your chest. in the silence that has grown too loud. This is the epicenter of manipulation. Because when a man has already begun to leave emotionally but doesn't want to look like the bad guy, he will twist the mirror. Instead of admitting his absence, he will distort your perception. He will plant doubts in your mind so that you question yourself instead of questioning him. Suddenly, the problem isn't his distance, it's your paranoia. The problem isn't his dishonesty, it's your overreaction. And little by little, you begin to apologize for feeling as if your emotions were mistakes. This tactic has a name: gaslighting. It is one of the most invisible yet destructive forms of abuse. It makes you believe that your intuition, the very compass meant to protect you, is broken. It convinces you that you can't trust yourself, that your clarity is nothing but irrational fear. But the truth is the opposite. You are not irrational. You are not too sensitive. You are simply seeing what he refuses to admit. Carl Jung once said that no one becomes enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. And this is exactly what gaslighting tries to prevent, that you see the darkness for what it is. Sometimes the manipulation comes in subtle comparisons. He may start mentioning other women, how someone else listens to him better, how someone else gets him, how someone else doesn't judge. And he doesn't say this to open an honest conversation. He says it to make you feel small, to weaken your confidence, to make you believe you are not enough. He might even cloak it in humor. You're too sensitive. Don't be like that. It was just a joke. But these are not jokes. They are daggers disguised as laughter. They are ways to chip away at your self-esteem until you adjust, until you silence yourself, until you try harder to please him. And that is how women lose themselves bit by bit. You start changing not because you want to, but because you are afraid of losing him. You stop expressing what bothers you, you hide your emotions. You shrink yourself to fit into the narrow space he still allows you. But the more you do this, the more you lose him, and worse, the more you lose yourself. Because love is not meant to reduce you. Real love does not ask you to erase your voice so he can stay comfortable in his shadow. The most dangerous thing about emotional abuse is its invisibility. There are no bruises, no obvious scars. To the outside world, everything may look fine. You may even struggle to explain it yourself. How do you describe the pain of being silenced with a smirk? How do you prove the violence of constant indifference? How do you show the wound left by words like, "You're crazy, you're overreacting, you're impossible to talk to"? And yet, the damage is real. Every day, your confidence erodes. Every day, your inner voice grows quieter. Every day, you become a shadow of the woman you once were. But here is the turning point. You were not born to doubt yourself. You were not born to beg for validation. You were not born to silence your intuition every time someone lacks the courage to love you honestly. If a man cannot face a difficult conversation, he is not ready for a real relationship. If a man must manipulate instead of telling the truth, he is not emotionally mature. And if a man makes your clarity feel like a flaw, then he is the flaw. True love does not silence you. It does not make you feel small. It does not confuse you into thinking you are too much or not enough. True love brings peace, not constant anxiety. Trust, not constant suspicion. If your relationship feels more like walking on eggshells than walking hand in hand, it is not love, it is control. And the longer you stay, the more it will cost you. Because manipulation is not about resolution, it is about power. It is about bending your reality until you forget your own strength. But strength is exactly what you have, because the same intuition you've been taught to ignore is still alive inside you. That quiet voice that whispers something isn't right is not your enemy, it is your compass. And once you start listening, everything changes. You no longer need evidence. You no longer need to catch him in a lie. Because the soul doesn't need proof, it feels the truth long before the mind accepts it. There is a moment in every painful story when a woman finally stops waiting. She no longer asks for explanations, no longer begs for attention, no longer needs him to admit what she already knows. She simply wakes up. And though that awakening hurts, it is also holy. because it is not just about recognizing that he abandoned you. It is about recognizing that you abandoned yourself too by staying long after he left. And in that moment, you begin the sacred work of returning to yourself. Yes, it will hurt. Yes, it will feel like breaking apart. But this is not your ending, it is your rebirth. Because letting go is not hatred, it is not punishment, it is not hardening your heart. Letting go is the ultimate act of love for yourself. It is saying, I no longer need proof. I no longer want to justify the unjustifiable. I no longer choose someone who does not choose me. I choose me. And when you make that choice, everything shifts. You step out of his shadow and back into your own light. You reclaim your voice. You reclaim your dignity. You reclaim the love that should have never been begged for in the first place, the love that begins with you. When you finally see clearly, when the fog of manipulation lifts, you realize something that changes everything. You were never hard to love. You were simply with someone who did not know how to love with the depth you deserve. His betrayal is not a reflection of your worth, but a mirror of his own emptiness. And the moment you stop internalizing his absence as your failure, you begin to heal. Healing is not about getting him back. It is not about waiting for an apology that may never come. Healing is about returning to yourself, to the woman who once trusted her own heart, who once walked with confidence, who once believed she was enough without anyone else's validation. Healing begins the moment you stop asking, why wasn't I enough for him? And start asking, why was I willing to settle for less than enough for me? Carl Jung said that freedom does not come when we change others, but when we stop reacting to their shadow. And that is exactly what you do when you release the need for him to see your worth. Because the truth is, whether he recognizes it or not, your worth does not diminish. Love is not measured by someone else's ability to value you. It is measured by your ability to value yourself. Yes, there will be days when the nostalgia floods in, days when you remember his smile, his touch, the moments that once felt like home. Your mind will play tricks on you, replaying only the sweetness, erasing the shadows. And on those days, you will be tempted to believe that maybe it wasn't so bad, maybe you could try again. But nostalgia is not love, it is memory. And you must remind yourself why you left, why you hurt, why your soul whispered no more. Memory is seductive, but the truth is steady. Hold on to the truth. Because when you finally stop begging for crumbs, you realize you were starving in a place where love should have nourished you. And the hunger you felt was never for him. It was for yourself, for your dignity, for your peace, for the wholeness you once silenced. And now you have the chance to reclaim it. A woman who has been betrayed is never the same. If she does not break, she transforms. She becomes the woman who will never again accept half-love, who will never again justify absence, who will never again shrink herself just to be tolerated. She becomes the woman who sees with her soul and trusts it, who no longer fears letting go of someone who already let go of her long ago. And when she loves again, and she will, it will be from a place of wholeness, not need, from strength, not fear, from freedom, not dependency. Because peace is worth more than attachment. Because self-love should never be sacrificed in the name of someone else's inability to stay. Because the most important relationship you will ever have is the one with yourself. So cry if you must. Cry for the years you endured, for the love you gave, for the parts of yourself you postponed in the name of holding on. Cry for the girl inside you who doubted her intuition, who silenced her own voice. And then wipe your tears and rise, because this story no longer belongs to him, it belongs to you. You are the author now, and you get to decide how it ends. You are not a victim, you are awake. You are not fragile, you are strong enough to feel deeply and still not harden. You are not alone. There are countless women across the world waking up just like you, refusing to live in half-truths, breaking invisible chains, learning to trust themselves again. Together, you are part of a quiet revolution of women who are no longer willing to settle for survival, but are ready to live in truth. The time has come to stop resisting what you already know, because as Jung said, what you resist persists, and resisting the truth only prolongs your pain. But embracing it, choosing to face it, choosing to honor it, sets you free. And freedom is what you were born for. So close the cycle, even if it still hurts. Trust your intuition, even if the world tells you to doubt. Believe your soul, even if he tells you you're crazy, because your soul does not lie. It has felt his absence, and that is enough. You don't need proof. You don't need confession. You don't need permission to choose yourself. And when you finally do, when you choose peace over chaos, truth over illusion, dignity over dependency, you discover the most important kind of love, the love that comes from within. So let this be etched into your soul. A conscious woman does not need to see betrayal with her eyes when she has already felt it with her heart. You are not here to beg for love. You are here to embody it, not to chase someone else's approval, but to honor your own worth. Not to survive on half-truths, but to live fully in the light of your own truth. And that truth, painful as it is, will be your liberation. You were never meant to live starving for love, begging for honesty, or shrinking just to be tolerated. You were born to be seen, to be cherished, to be chosen every single day without hesitation. If someone cannot meet you there, then it is not love, it is a shadow of it. So today, reclaim yourself. Choose peace over chaos, truth over illusion, dignity over dependency. And if these words awaken something inside you, don't keep it quiet. Share this message. Let another woman know she is not alone. And subscribe to Heartsync X, where we speak the truths many are too afraid to say. Because your story isn't over. It's only beginning. And the ending, you get to write it.